81-year-old actress is still at it. She moved to Washington to focus on civil disobedience around climate change, inspired by 16-year-old activist Greta Thunberg. Love you, James.
The scientists know, and just the other day, 11,000 of them issued a warning saying there is no question that the Earth and its population is facing a dire catastrophe.
This is a clear sign that we need to stop destroying nature, and our war against nature must end. Did HS2's in recent times cut down old England's ancient trees? And did they kill our oaks and limes, forests and woods and green valleys? And do they take the habitats of nature's birds, hedgehogs and bats, and still won't stop till they've destroyed old England's green and pleasant land? Using a dark satanic will, HS2 will just kill and kill all living things that need to breathe, as from our land and parks they thieve. Clean air for life is our real wealth, 'cause greed and money can't buy our health. No choice, we're forced to breathe foul air, while HS2 strips in the air.
So this beautiful field they want for an electricity auto feeder station because the train will just take too much energy. That is the line of the Chiltern line, which goes from London to Birmingham. Perfectly good train with loads of capacity, loads of empty seats. This train would come out here and then go straight across. See that beautiful house? One of the pillars of the viaduct would be on top of that house. That house is going to be demolished, and that has a blue plaque because someone who got the Victoria Cross, his name was Cecil Kinross. He's a Canadian veteran who had a mountain named after him in Canada, and they're going to demolish that house. They're going to demolish all of these trees. 3,000 trees in this area they want to take, and then another 3,000 or more all the way across the valley. This is the eastern side. It slopes down to the lakes and the river and the canal, and literally another 3,000 or 4,000 trees around all the lakes. This is the green lungs of London. This is what we've got to save.
Okay, well, the Paris Climate Change Agreement has been signed by the United Kingdom government, and we are here in London, Greater London, on the green belt. This is natural and semi-natural habitat. The main thrust of the Paris Climate Change Agreement is to protect the nature we have left, because it is only nature that can balance the climate. The second thrust is about emissions, but without the nature, the natural, the trees and the water supplies, we cannot balance the exhaust fumes from the fossil fuels. So we are calling on the UK government to implement the Paris Climate Change Agreement now and stop deforestation in London, UK 2017. They do not have a High Court order, they do not have planning permission, and they do not have any species licences.
You're currently trespassing. Oh, yeah. We would like you to leave.
In Sarah Green, I reported a crime
Right.
to the Metropolitan Police this afternoon.
Okay.
A wildlife fine, because the tree felling that you see here was taking place. They were uprooting these trees that you can see all the roots here with those diggers over there. So we reported that as a wildlife fine because there's no planning permission to this site.
We've demonstrated over 2 days to Sarah Green in particular that we're here under the local authority of the HS2 Act. HS2 now own this land and so we don't require separate planning permission to do that. She was showing all the relevant documents.
No fucking reporting me, yeah? I'll fuck you up! Get the fuck out!
We have a real big problem with HS2. Just down the hill here we have the only wet woodland left in London. It's going to be wiped out. 2,400 species have their home there. There are 12 species of bat, there are otters, there are waterfowl. Ospreys come use this valley as their migration route. We have to stop this. In the bottom of the valley there we have an aquifer which supplies 22% of London's water. They're going to be piling big lumps of concrete through it when they build their viaduct. And the scope of the scale of the environmental destruction is just horrendous.
The HS2 contractors and their orange outfits are everywhere. Then Coburg Street, St James Gardens, Cardigan Street, working on the Ibis, working on the Thistle. They're just everywhere, and it feels like they've taken over the world, really.
It's a catastrophic loss. You cannot replace ancient woodland. That is a fact.
Until every little bit of woodland from here to Birmingham is gone, there's still something worth fighting for.
Especially in London, but all over the country, we're suffering from illegal toxic air pollution. And what the government are doing is, with their HS2 project, they're not complying with Planet Earth's court order to do something about the serious pollution issue that is actually killing people and it's stunting our children's lungs. The government, for this project, HS2, they're actually going around and they're actually carrying out deforestation all over England. We need these trees because they're oxygen giving and we need them for our health and well-being. The government doesn't care.
HS2 is the biggest ever archaeological dig to be carried out in the UK, and the biggest currently, I think, in Europe. We have over 1,000 archaeologists working on over 60 sites between London and Birmingham, and it's a dream to be an archaeologist working on a project like this, because we're going to find something from virtually every archaeological period. There are some more prominent individuals buried here.
If you lose that sense of wonder, you've lost one of the most important things in your life.
Welcome, Greta Thunberg.
The UK, however, is very special, not only for its mind-blowing historical carbon debt, but also for its current, very creative carbon account. Since 1990, the UK has achieved a 37% reduction of its territorial CO2 emissions, according to Global Carbon Project. And that does sound very impressive, but these numbers do not include emissions from aviation, shipping, and those associated with imports and exports. If these numbers are included, the reduction is around 10% since 1990. The climate crisis is both the easiest and the hardest issue we have ever faced. The easiest because we know what we must do. We must stop the emissions of greenhouse gases. The hardest because our current economics are still totally dependent on burning fossil fuels and thereby destroying the ecosystems in order to create an everlasting economic growth. Nor the aspect of equity or climate justice, clearly stated throughout the Paris Agreement, which is absolutely necessary to make it work on a global scale.
And NASA, and with all of the work they're doing, has really demonstrated that we humans are doing a huge amount of damage to this planet right now.
You know, we spend over $16 billion a year subsidizing the very people that are killing off the planet and making us so sick. Hundreds of millions of people are going to be made into climate refugees, and we don't know what's going to happen to them. Many of them will die. A lot of them come from the global south.
The job of NASA is just to provide the data, and then it's really up to our legislators and policymakers to change policy so that we get on a healthier path, helping us all be aware of that based on the scientific data that NASA has collected now over 6 decades. That is very thorough and very complete and paints a picture of this Earth becoming a much less friendly place for human survival if we stay on this path.
Let us live up to that name. We need wisdom to actually find the solution and then courage to back it.
So one of the big things that NASA is doing is providing information and looking at the Earth as a system, right? So instead of, you might live in a particular area and say, well, it's actually getting colder here, there's no global warming, right? But NASA is looking at the entire Earth. And so we're able to know the temperatures not just in one place on Earth, but the entire Earth, because of NASA and because of the satellites. We know what the weather is, not just in Europe or the United States or Africa, but the entire Earth because of NASA and these satellites. And the fires and the drought and the health of the ocean and the ice melting and how much carbon is in the atmosphere and the ozone. So it's looking at all of these different systems, how much moisture is in the air. And through that, it then takes all of that information and it gives it to scientists who analyze it and validate it. And they have scientists also on the ground that are validating it, an aircraft that's validating all of those findings. So it's very complete and it's all double checked. And then they go into models which can show them, these scientists, what the health is of this planet. And what they're finding is that humans are destroying this planet. I mean, we're destroying it. And so what many of these scientists are saying is that we are on a train wreck, and it's not a question of if, it's a question of when.
Using a dark satanic bill, HS2 will just kill and kill all living things that need to breathe, as from our lands and parks they thieve. Clean air for life is our real wealth, 'cause greed and money can't buy our health. No choice, we're forced to breathe foul air, while HS2 strips England bare.